Thanks for staying with us. You're watching What Now? Let's turn attention to Asia, where President of the United States, Donald Trump, has met Japan's new Prime Minister, Sana Takaichi, the country's first woman to hold the position. The two leaders met in Tokyo, where they signed new deals on trade and critical minerals and pledged closer defense cooperation. President Trump praised Takaichi as a great leader and congratulated her on making history. The Prime Minister in turn said she plans to nominate the U.S. President for a Nobel Peace Prize, calling its recent ceasefire efforts in Asia and the Middle East unprecedented. Takaichi, a close ally of the late Japanese leader Shinzo Abe, is pushing ahead with plans to boost Japan's defense spending to 2% of its GDP, a move seen as part of efforts to counter China's growing military power. She also confirmed new investment packages worth $550 billion, including shipbuilding and increased purchases of American soybeans, natural gas, and pickup trucks.
Get that nuclear dust all over the place. All of you are affected, right? And we said, no, we're not doing any deals if you're going to fight. And within about 24 hours, that was the end of that. It was amazing, actually. And we've done numerous like that. I would say trade is responsible for 70% of the fact that we didn't have wars by using our heads, because they want to trade with the United States. But I said, we're not going to trade if you're going to go to war. And it's amazing how quickly they were able to make deals. And, you know, they would have been fighting for 10 years, killing millions of people, numerous of them. So we're very happy about that. But I also want to say that U.S. Trade Representative
Now, during their meeting at the Akasaka Palace, Trump thanked Japan for buying more U.S. defense equipment and praised the country's commitment to stronger alliance. The two sides also signed an agreement on critical minerals and rare earth materials essential for everything from smartphones to fighter jets, aimed at reducing dependence on China.
I want to just let you know, anytime you have any question, any doubt, anything you want, any favors you need, anything I can do to help Japan, we will be there. We are an ally at the strongest level, and it's a great honor to be with you, especially so early in what will be, I think, one of the greatest prime ministers. I think you will be one of the great, everything I know, from Shinzo and others, you will be one of the great prime ministers. I'd also like to congratulate you on being the first woman prime minister. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, and I want to congratulate you on that. I think that has to be called out. And you're going to do a fantastic job, and we're going to have a fantastic relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Addressing U.S. troops aboard an aircraft carrier near Tokyo, Trump hailed long-standing U.S.-Japan ties and said the first batch of U.S. missiles to Japan's fighter jets will arrive this week. President Trump is expected to head to South Korea for talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping, where he hopes to strike a trade truce between the world's two biggest economies.
That's the way it is. The United States is blessed with the strongest and most powerful military in the history of the world. There's no military like our military, not even close. Nobody has our weapons, and it'll be stronger and more powerful than ever before very soon. You know, we just approved the biggest budget in the history, over $1 trillion. Over $1 trillion. We have the best ships, the best airplanes, the best submarines, the best technology. But above all, we have America's military. It's the best people. It's all about the people, ultimately. You have to work all of that fancy stuff that we make better than anybody.
Partner Gainful Solutions, Stephen Hayes, joins me on What Now. For more on this, he joins me from Washington, D.C. in the U.S. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Hayes.
Yeah, good evening. Good afternoon, I should say, Precious.
So I want us to start from President Trump's latest stop in Asia, which is Japan. Over the years, we've seen a flip-flop in his posture towards Japan, and that largely would depend on how he feels about whoever is prime minister at the time. But all seem to have gone well in this meeting. Does this mark a significant shift in U.S.-Japan relations?
Well, it does in some ways. I mean, the relationship has always been very, very strong in many ways. And it only became weaker when President Trump drew the line on tariffs and other issues. So I think it's on the upswing again, and certainly the remarks by President Trump certainly underlines the strength of the relationship. One hopes that he doesn't flip-flop again.
And strikingly, Prime Minister Takaichi seems to have prepared for this extensively, and she has now set a positive tone to the meeting so far. But I'm just wondering, a lot of promises made, deals signed, and how much pressure is on her now to balance trade with the U.S. and also protect local industries back home.
Well, I think she has done a remarkable job in preparing for this trip. Certainly, she's assuaged the ego of the president and with all the right moves. She's made some very positive statements. But yes, the pressure on her is going to be from particularly the rural community, the rice community, which has always had the rice farmers, which have always had a very strong role in traditional Japanese politics. And part of it is that President Trump wants a far greater open market to U.S. rice, which would lower the price of rice in Japan. So that's something significant that most people don't look at. The rare earth agreement is very, very important to the United States and to President Trump. It is an agreement for cooperation, but still Japan and U.S. together only are going to represent about 10% of the access to rare earths, which China still controls. And then the other issue is that defense spending is going to increase in Japan, and the Prime Minister has promised that. They're already doing that and will increase further. But that's also going to put pressures on traditional, I say traditional since World War II, agreements on low defense spending in China and Japan. That's going to change very dramatically now. That's partly because of largely because of China's growing military strength.
And it's not just Japan. There was Thailand and Cambodia, the deal signed between both countries and a deal between U.S. and those countries. There is Malaysia. There is going to be South Korea eventually. I'm just wondering how easy it would be for these countries to walk the fine line, especially where national interests overlap. And because they also have to then factor in China's leadership in the continent.
They're going to have to walk a very fine line, particularly the Southeast Asian countries, because of the proximity of China, but more importantly, China's flooding the markets now with Chinese products, which are undercutting the domestic market, supply in Southeast Asia. So that's going to be a very strong pressure point from both the United States and China. And I think Southeast Asia is going to be one of the key areas of
All right, I will seem to have lost connection with Mr. Hayes. I just want to confirm one more time. We will have you, Mr. Hayes. Right, I understand we have lost connection with him. We're speaking there about President Trump's visit to Asia and what that would mean for the region in terms of trade deals, because most of those deals we've seen has been trade deals, and how they will walk that fine line between their countries, protecting their countries and balancing trade with the U.S. I understand that Mr. Hayes is back now. You were giving your thought on walking the fine lines.
Well, I think the Southeast Asian countries are especially going to have to walk a very fine line. Their economies are dependent not only on the U.S., but also China, and Chinese goods are flooding the markets now because China has moved away from the U.S. as the primary or only point of its exports. And so that flooding in the market is lowering the job availability and also hurting the domestic economies of Southeast Asia. So there's going to have to be a very fine line of negotiations between Southeast Asia and China as well.
And one of the most critical parts of President Trump's visit is his meeting with President Xi Jinping. And I'm sure President Xi has been watching how the U.S. is inserting itself into Asia's politics and policies, and that's where, I mean, that's China's domain. Do you think that that would impact on this meeting whilst China tries to reassert itself and its dominance in the region?
Well, China has done a very good job of asserting itself in the region. I think that the issue, though, is going to be that China and the U.S. both need each other economically right now. China is trying to move away from a very strong dependence on the United States for a lot of part of its economy. It's beginning to do that fairly well. And also, China has a big advantage in that they have control over right now about 88 to 90% of the rare earth minerals, which are necessary for key production in the United States, in Europe, around the world. So there's going to be, I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion. I think that both countries see that they need to tone down the rhetoric, but they need to do it in a productive way, that there is some agreement, and that remains to be seen. I think the preparations, according to the U.S. Negotiators, is that they're moving forward in a very positive way. President Xi has said that as well, but I think the proof is going to be in what comes out of that head-to-head meeting.
So far, tariffs has strained relations. Both men have also put their ego ahead of diplomatic relations and cooperation, rather. I'm wondering, what's your expectations from this meeting? Do you think they will find areas of cooperation?
Yeah, I do think that there will be some areas of cooperation. I think China is going to be very reluctant, though, to do much on the open up the access to rare earth minerals. They may, there is talk that they'll give a 1-year abeyance of that I'm sorry, for at least a year, but they're going to continue to control the rare earth minerals. And this is why I think there's going to be a major competition between the United States and China over the next several years that will especially affect Africa. But I think that there will be some agreements. There'll be some new trade agreements that at how significant they're going to be remains to be seen. But President Trump will want to, of course, say that it was a great success. And frankly, China will want to say it's a success as well.
Thank you so much for your time, as always. Partner Gainful Solutions, Stephen Hayes. Thanks for talking to us.